So I wanted to give you some information that will combat those misconceptions. And I'm really, really glad, actually, that Josh really took you through some of the 101. The IMO4Biz and IMO4Gov courses that I teach are literally hands-on and go through and describe how to use each one of those tools. So this opportunity for me is to get to address an issue that I very rarely get to talk about, except for as a sideline within a session with a team or an individual that I'm training. So this is very exciting for me to be able to bust some of those myths for you. So we are a society that hasn't really used data to our best advantage, so we now have some data to actually work with. And as I said, the mobile phone, the smartphone, is in fact the gateway device. This is the device that I teach people on the most, that there is the least barrier, the smallest obstacle to understanding. Everybody understands how a phone works. Almost everyone, as you can see, has a cell phone. There's a difference between a feature phone and a smartphone. No, it's not a dumb phone. They call it a feature phone. Smartphone is anything that can really access the internet in a more of a native way that you're used to with the desktop. So as you can see, my 90-year-old grandmother has a cell phone. So that is the easiest way for me to teach. And I'm not kidding when I say I've given lessons at the grocery store. If you have 3 minutes and I see a spark in your eye that you want to know, I will feed you as much information as you need. There is millions of bits and bytes and tons and serverfuls of data. You do not need all of that. What you need is information that's useful to you. The one misconception I see a lot is that you need to know everything. Nobody, obviously, can know everything. You need to know what's important to you. So if you need to know how to unsubscribe from all of those emails, I will show you where that unsubscribe button is. That's what you need to know. And when you're ready for more, you'll come back for more. That's the function focus that needs to happen. What is your problem? What do you need solved? Then you find a tool that solves that problem, and you figure out a way to use it around rules and around regulations. You figure out what you can do, what will serve your purpose. This gives you a general idea of desktop and laptops. Mitch Joel of 6 Pixels of Separation, he's a great writer on marketing in the social media space. He wrote in a study that the class of 2012 for Amherst College in New York, they registered 443 devices. Students have to register all of their Wi-Fi enabled devices so that you can't hack into the server, etc. 443 devices. Does anybody want to guess how many desktop computers were registered? Any number? Close. 14. And this was, since our class of 2012, if we were to do that again, you would probably be right. They only registered 5 landlines. They don't have phone books. They don't have landlines. They don't even use desktop computers. So it's not that we can't, because in fact, right now, we can't, right? We know what we can't do. We need to find out what we can do. It's really nice to see that Marcy's coming out with the iPad app. I didn't know that they had the availability for iPads, because as elected officials are adopting technology, they're adopting iPads more than anything else, which I think is really interesting. There was a quote that said that the makers of Twitter, as if it were baseball, put a ball and a bat on a diamond and walked away. The users invented baseball or Twitter. We don't know what it's going to do until people get their hands on it. So it's really exciting to me to see the adoption. There's a lot of people are skipping right over smartphones and going right for tablets. So this data is from, as Josh mentioned, it's the Pew Internet Research Center, and the American Life Project is about the only source of data on internet usage that I trust. There are no industry standards for analytics, so statistics are all over the map. It's painful and it's difficult for somebody in my position or any of the speakers that talk to you today, is that we keep our fingers crossed that this data is even close to true. There are no industry standards. But Pew is about as good as you can get. So if you want any data on your industry, your demographic, your area of interest, Pew Internet Research Center. This is really exciting, because 65% of online adults are using social networking, which is a 61% increase in 1 year, doubled from 2008. And this is, most of this data is 08 and 10. What's interesting is 65% have ever used the internet. 43% used it yesterday. It took me a really long time to figure out this graph. I was like, really, yesterday? It took me, I don't know, I had a block. This is, again, a misconception. If you're speaking to anybody over the age of 50, 45, 50, the only way that they're going to be able to communicate with their kids, and of course, these are all generalizations. Everybody bucks a trend somewhere. But if you're speaking to somebody over the age of 45 or 50, they're going to tell you, the only way I can talk to my kids now is by Facebook or texting. So they are by force. It's necessary for them to communicate via Facebook. I did hear recently that when the telephone was introduced, they needed technicians to teach how to dial the phone and how to make phone calls and how to communicate. And you don't need to scream. That's my job. I'm an audio engineer. My job will be phased out in another few years when everybody's comfortable. But I've always been a technology trainer, so I'll just go where new technology is. My specialty is helping you feel comfortable when you feel vulnerable. So the age, if you look at the triple growth in the 65 plus category, there's always the assumptions that people over the age of 65 and retired aren't using the internet. They have more money, more time on their hands, they are more civically involved, they are living longer, and they have money for all those gadgets and what's-its. And they are asking me for lessons. So they are actually using all of those tools, and yes, 6% of all internet users are over the age of 65, but a triple growth, that's ridiculous. The 50 and over, it's 50 and over, those two categories are growing so drastically that at some point, everybody is going to be online. It is going to be the exception that somebody is not. And 1 channel, 2 channels, 5 channels. We don't know how many channels these people are going to be using, but I do know that my 90-year-old grandmother, yes, the same grandmother that really loves the internet, literally has a conniption fit anytime she no longer has email. She calls me to say, my modem's down. And I said, well, all Comcast is down. Give it a minute. She freaks out. So yes, she's a little ahead of the curve, but that's going to continue again and again. You're going to continue to see that. So I don't know if you know this, but women like to communicate. We like to talk, and we're really good at the community thing. So yes, social is female. It's designed and funded by men. Grr. But women run it. Women make it work. Women make it real and three-dimensional. And what's interesting is that the disparity in 2008 was 6%. It's now, as of 2010, 12%. I think the only other category I can think of where women rule is professional modeling, and nobody's interested in that. But that's really the only other category that I could think of that women rule. So it's really, really nice. Hopefully when they're funding and they're developing and they're deciding what's going to happen, Marcy and I will be in the front row. So how do you actually address all of these concerns? How do you jump over that chasm that's in front of you? The first and most important tool is education. As I said, I can put you in a go-kart and you can figure it out, but I want you to learn how to drift. I want you to learn how to go sideways. I want you to flip the car around and do all those cool professional tricks. I want you to be able to do that. And if you choose not to, I want you to make informed decisions about technology and tools that will affect your life, your business, your constituents, and your boss. You need to know why it won't work for you. Because if you don't know yes or no that information, you're run by fear. We need a Facebook page. Okay, so first, what would you like to do? I don't know, but we just need a Facebook page. It's driven by fear. If you say, I don't need a Facebook page, and I'll say, why? You've got point after point after point. Boom, that's all that matters. You don't have to use it. Nobody has to use these tools. But you do need to understand why they work or why they don't work for you. Information is power, which is why the globe is rippling with it right now, because information is passing into the hands of every person on the planet. Communication. One of the most powerful questions I've ever learned is, how do you prefer to be communicated with? How do you prefer that I reach out to you? Okay, physical mail, voicemail, email, internet, go to my contact site page on my website, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Foursquare. I won't bore you, I have a lot of channels. But if you ask me that question, I'll say text me. Why? Because I can respond right away. It pops up on a bubble on my phone, but you wouldn't know that. You have to ask. If you want to communicate with somebody, you have to pick the most effective way to do it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your breath. I do have a client that spends a lot of time in the hospital, and I gave him a texting lesson from his hospital bed. He wanted to call me, and he has COPD, has difficulty breathing. And I said, do you know how to text? You don't have to call me. And he said, no, I don't even know how to text. I don't know if I can. Show me your phone. 30 seconds later, this man was texting. The only way that we communicate now is via text. His life depends on it. So, yes, it's easy to say, Twitter, I don't care about what you had for breakfast. But if it can aid in revolution, if it can abolish oppression, if it can get funding for a much-lagged bill, if it can get information out about healthcare, technology only does what we want it to do. It only takes the intention of the user. Alex J. Ross said that. So, understanding that you are different from me is tremendously important. And if you aren't even aware that there is differences, then you aren't going to be able to get very far. But understanding is a big part of that, and patience.